Hi everyone, I'm Becker-Utess, and if I haven't met you, I am the new Math and Social Studies Consultant at Ingham ISD, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about some work that is being done in the state of Michigan to update the social studies content expectations. Now, don't worry, the goal of this is to not add more standards. As a former social studies teacher, I understand there are already too many. The goal, and you'll hear this repeated throughout the presentation, is for the standards to be fewer, clearer, and higher. The idea is that they're going to be aligned to the National C3 Inquiry Framework, which was put out by the National Council of Social Studies. And the C3 framework revolves a lot around inquiry in social studies rather than just memorizing facts and figures. So you can see only one of the dimensions really talks about applying the disciplinary tools and concepts. They're also looking at how able students are to develop questions, to plan out inquiries in social studies, to evaluate sources, which obviously with technology is very important, use evidence to back themselves up, and to communicate conclusions and take informed action. So you can notice that this is a lot like what you're seeing in the Common Core, and that's good because this C3 framework was written as a response to the Common Core for social studies educators. So the nice part is it fits in really well with what we're seeing in the Common Core. Now, who's involved in this work? A lot of different people across the state are. The Michigan Social Studies Supervisors Association, Michigan Council for Social Studies, and each of the subject areas. And the performance assessments of social studies thinking is involved. And if you haven't heard of this before, it's an incredible group of people that are creating online ready assessments that are very much the inquiry based as opposed to simply the traditional paper pencil memorize the facts of the social studies assessment. And the MDE is supporting all of this work as well. Now, this is going to be a year-long process. Now, you might think that's not a lot of time, but again, they're not trying to change a lot of the standards. Their goal is to change less than 10% of the standards. So really, a lot of what you're going to see is not going to look different, but again, fewer, higher, and clearer. And that work is already done. The first step of this process was due on December 1st, and that is to simply update the standards. So going through and deciding what gets removed, what stays, what's added, that was to be done by December 1st. The next step of the process is to review those expectations that were created and ensure that they align with the social studies assessment and instruction, and that is due in January. Finally, and I think this is probably the best steps of the process, is there going to be groups of, and these are groups of teachers, groups of social studies consultants, there's all sorts of people involved in this, college professors, so you're getting a wide variety of perspectives as they are planning this. These groups then in March are going to help develop some assessments that teachers can use right in their classrooms with this. So in a formative nature or perhaps even as a summative nature within a classroom. And finally, there's going to be a curriculum committee, and that committee will work on instructional strategies and activities that help support those. So teachers aren't just going to be handed a big book of standards. They're going to be handed some resources that will help them with this. For each of those steps, there are two committees, a K-8 committee and a 9-12 committee. But again, a lot of them working together to know what's being hit at which spot. Now, there are somewhat of major changes, even though they are only changing 10% of the standards, and the first is that 6th and 7th grade area. If you recall, in the current standards, 6th grade focuses on the Western Hemisphere, 7th grade focuses on the Eastern Hemisphere. Well, what they found was that wasn't really a productive way to go deeper into the material. So they found that the vast majority of the teachers across the state really wanted 6th grade to focus on the world geography, whereas 7th grade would then focus on the world history component. So that's a pretty major change, but not one that you have to be too worried about yet, because the assessment, the social studies MSTEP, won't be given until the end of 8th grade. So as long as it's covered, you're okay. Another world history issue that's changing, Era 4, which is the 300 to 1500 AD era, it will be moving from the high school level down to the 7th grade. And then they are looking at potentially moving the Industrial Revolution from 8th grade up to the high school level as a transition point. But again, you'll know more about that when the final standards come out. The big thing they're looking at, if you've looked at the social studies standards, you notice that there's a lot of EGs. They might tell you a concept and then they list a lot of individual things. And teachers got very confused about should they teach every one of those, or those examples, and they really want to try to move those out of the standards so they're just simply in an appendix where teachers could look if they want to get ideas of how they could teach certain topics now, of course, how is this going to tie in with the state assessments? Obviously, all of those groups are going to come together to write these updated expectations, but the assessment people at the state of Michigan are going to have to write assessments that model that as well. So they're not exactly sure when the M step will start to align to the updated standards. They're hoping in 2016 to 2018, somewhere in that time frame, they will hopefully have assessments that are more inquiry based as opposed to simply the memorize and regurgitate. However, there are interim assessments that are scheduled between the current 5th, 8th, and 11th grade structure. Those are scheduled to begin in 2017, 2018. So that is really the end date, as we know right now, for when that 6th and 7th grade piece has to be sorted out, because then the 6th grade will take a test at the end of 6th grade on the world geography, 7th grade world history. Another piece of great news, once these are all done, the state of Michigan is going to be funding 8 PD sessions throughout the summer, and you only have to attend one of them. And the good news is it's a one-day training, it's free, lunch and sketchies are provided, the MDE is paying for all of it, and even better news, Lansing is a proposed site. So my hope is potentially that Ingham ISD could host something like that. So hopefully that gives you a general overview of the updated standards. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. My information is up on the screen right now. You can send me an email or give me a call, and I'd be happy to talk to you about this more. The other thing that I do is each month I'll be sending out a social studies update. So if you'd like to be on that, you're definitely welcome to send me an email and I'll get you on that listserv. And that will include any updates that I hear about as I go through the year and learn more through the Michigan Social Studies Supervisors Association. Thanks so much, and I look forward to working with you.